Are we live? We are
We are.
live. Okay, Oscar lovers, the 87th Annual Academy Awards are just over. Birdman has taken 4 awards. It has taken Best Picture, Best Director, Best Cinematography, and Best Screenplay. That's a bit of a surprise. We're going to get to that. But it was not a surprise to one of our editors, Daniel Montgomery, who got 96%. What category did you screw up, Daniel, for a perfect score?
The only one I got, and honestly, if I had gone with my gut on some of these, I would have probably screwed other ones up too, so I don't mind. I missed an animated feature. I was predicting How to Train Your Dragon 2 and with Big Hero 6. And I had a feeling about Big Hero 6, but I played it safe in a lot of these categories, and that turned out to, it worked out.
Rob and I, we both did well. We got 80%, Rob. That's decent. I'll take that, right? 20 out of 24?
I'm taking that to the bank, mate.
Oh, no, 19 out of 24.
That's a really, really good result for me, Tom. Very, very good.
Me too. And by the way, the experts, the top score for them was 84%. Second place was 80%. So you tied them if you're going by that measure. Chris, how did you do?
Oh, come on! Don't ask me that tonight. I've had 2 amazing years in a row. I guess you missed 5, Rob missed 5, I missed 6. So no.
That's good. That's still good.
But I went off that Boyhood Linklater cliff, and if they had won, I would have been fine. So.
And I damn near joined that team yesterday too. I was just waffling, and then I was at the Indie Spirits Awards. I was there with Ralph Galvan, and then as soon as, of course, Birdman won there, I'm not changing that prediction. The 5 I got wrong were screenplay. I went with Grand Budapest there. Music score, I went with Theory of Everything instead of what won there? Grand Budapest. Foreign film, I knew I was wrong there, and I was going to make a point to get back and change the prediction, and I just forgot. I knew Ida was going to win. I was just going on this limb for Wild Tales because I loved it so much. Animated feature, Big Hero 6 is my favorite animated feature of the year, so I deserve to be wrong there for not picking it. It's my own punishment. But screenplay, I was in a quandary because of the actual votes I counted among Academy members. Imitation Game was winning, and I still didn't believe it. I said Whiplash is going to win this because it's really the most original screenplay, and it's stuck in that adapted category. But there was so much Whiplash love, I felt they were trying to put it somewhere. We saw that happen everywhere else, but not there. Rob, take us through what did you get wrong?
Well, I know for a fact I got a couple of the short categories wrong. I got obviously animated feature wrong. That was the one where I screamed the loudest when Big Hero 6 won because that's one of my favorite films of the year. And I'm still trying to work out, obviously screenplay because I didn't pick Birdman. I thought Grand Budapest would win that one. And then there's one more that I'm still trying to figure out. It's all this mad rush after the show, and I still haven't worked at that 5th one. But I can live with that though. I can live with what I got wrong.
It's a very respectable score. Daniel, since you're so smart, let me come to you for this answer here. How did you know that there was going to be some illogical Birdman result here? For example, now we know that the film that wins Best Picture normally wins Best Screenplay, but the majority of people were saying no, they were going to go with Budapest because that, after all, had won DGA and some other. Or did it win DGA, or did it won most of the Screenplay awards? Birdman had won at the Golden Globes, as I recall. But it didn't win for Michael Keaton. Normally, Best Picture takes an acting award. So if we were supposed to be seeing a Birdman sweep, it didn't sweep there. And how did you know it wasn't going to take that turn?
I didn't. I predicted Birdman, the PGA, SAG, DGA wins. I thought, okay, it wins Best Picture and Best Director. I figure it takes a Screenplay Award to go along with that. After it won Best Screenplay, honestly, I expected to be wrong, but after it won Best Screenplay, I was so worried about Best Actor. I thought they're probably
I was too. I was sweating.
Because I figured, all right, it wins Screenplay, it's going to sweep the others. But I sort of compartmentalized everything. I said, but you know what, SAG. Eddie Redmayne won SAG. Michael Keaton really should have won SAG if he was going to be a front runner. That's one where if I were able to change my predictions during the telecast, I might have actually switched away from Redmayne after that screenplay win. But I just sort of compartmentalized those things, and I figure Best Picture is going to take Best Screenplay. But Redmayne just had that other quality. It just had, it's like Chris has said throughout the season, that performance and that film ticks so many boxes. Got a Best Picture nomination. Really, I think mostly on the strength of Eddie Redmayne's performance. So I just stuck with that one there. I was not confident about that when that award came up.
So the lesson we all learned here was that the guilds really do tell. Because, Chris, you were going with the whole BAFTA theory, right?
I was. They've helped me so much over the last 6 or 7 years on really complicated, tough categories, and that one was more of a shocker to me than any result really of the season. I was so convinced that Birdman would win directing and picture at BAFTA that when it didn't, it just shook me. I couldn't believe it. I switched over to Boyhood for the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
What other insights did we all have tonight?
Well, obviously the editing rule. You know, we've been saying it ad nauseum for many years now. A film can't win Best Picture without that editing nomination since Ordinary People. Well, that's just been blown out of the water. So forever now we'll be able to say, well, it happened last year, or it happened 2 years ago. It might happen again. That really surprised me. That was what was holding me back. It might be another 34 years, but I was really held back from ticking off Birdman because of that. It just really means a lot to me. It's such a long-held statistic. Well, that's gone.
Well, some rules are going to go out of the. I mean, there were so many contradictions this season that some rules and trends were going to go away.
By the way, can you guys see me? My screen has gone blank. Is everything okay?
Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah,
I'm coming through. Okay. All right, then I won't change anything up here. Here's some other observations from the night, just quickly, beyond just what happened on the awards. I think the peak, theatrically speaking, of the entire night on the performance side was, what do you guys think? Lady Gaga just
can you believe
effing
it?
show. Wow. And I think she reinvented her career tonight.
Yes.
I didn't know she could do that.
I don't think any of us.
No, I knew she could sing.
Yeah. She did that classics record with Tony Bennett, and she just won the Grammy for that. So she's sort of like, I really think I've known for a while, and it's really shown tonight that Lady Gaga is one of the best vocalists in pop music right now, but she doesn't really for it because she does so much of her music is like this heavily produced dance music, so that you don't really get that vocalist all the time. And yeah, that was always there.
Well, she gets lost in all. I mean, I never really paid much attention to her because she's so lost. Some performers are so gimmicky with their outfits and their over the top, behavior that they, if they actually can perform, you don't even know it.
And I'm sure Craig and Neil, the producers of the show, just said, you're not doing any of that, Gaga. You are going to stay within the confines of this accepted performance genre, which is just pure vocal, belted out, baby, simple dress. We're not doing any kooky masks or the rest of it. She went along with it. There were a couple little vocal flourishes there which were appropriate, but I'm sure it was hard to rein her in. But I think it was so smart that she did because she really showed us, I think we all felt like you did, Chris, that she was simply mostly gimmick and no there, but wow, she got a standing ovation. And when Julie Andrews came out crying, it was one of those great chances that the producers took of this show that I think really paid off. They of course won Best Picture for Chicago, the Neil Marin and Craig Zadan who produced this show, and it's one of the sad stories in the history of the Oscars. They were screwed out of Oscars themselves because of a producer rule that gave all the credit to this guy Marty, who had actually produced the Broadway show of Chicago. And so they're always out to remind everybody of their great musical chops, and I think they did a wonderful job. The opening number was good too. Daniel, you liked that, right?
Yeah, I like the opening number. I was sort of dreading all the musical numbers that were coming up, but I thought, okay, Neil Patrick Harris is always good for a great opening number. He's done it at the Tonys a bunch of times, and this was an incredibly, funny song. It was well written. It incorporated a lot of the nominees in a really smart, concise way, and I thought that was, sadly his very best moment, because then everything kind of fell apart for him hosting wise. But that was a really great opener.
Who else thinks he was a disaster as a host, or really bad, or whatever?
I do. I thought he was a disaster. I'm sorry. He's a friend of Gold Derby's, right? But
very good friend of ours. Yeah. Chris has won him Emmy Awards, right?
I know.
And Neil Patrick Harris has thanked Chris from the podium.
He has, but I've got to say, I just thought it was a really unfortunate performance by him, and it's really
he wasn't
not
bad.
like
Why
him.
are you bitching? Come on, his material was not good. He wasn't bad, Rob.
No, well, the material is shit, and therefore you can't what could he do? There was nothing for him to do. It was terrible. And I thought that opening number was very been there, done that. It wasn't that special to me. A lot of whenever he was up on stage, that whole bit about the predictions box was shockingly
was really bad.
awful.
Yes, I know.
It was just terrible.
And his stuff in the audience too, his riffing dance was a bomb.
Not good. As Daniel said, he's no Ellen, and look, but it wasn't a complete disaster. I just didn't think he was very good, and I think Zayden and Marin, they need to move on now. I think Cheryl Boone Isaacs and the Board of Governors now need to move to somebody else and let someone else have a go at this show, because they're just not cutting it. They didn't do a terrible job, but it wasn't as entertaining as it could have been. Thank God for Lady Gaga. Thank God for Common and John Legend, who gave an amazing performance of that song. That brought tears to my eyes, and there were tears throughout that whole audience. That's the kind of emotion we want to see. We don't want to see people being played off. We want to hear the
Rihanna was great. Adam Levine was okay. When Jennifer Hudson came out after the memoriam thing, she did a really good job. So the musical stuff in general was excellent, right?
It was great. Yeah. And we were making fun of them. We thought that the musical numbers would be painful, and yet they were the highlight of the show.
It's
really,
just
really
that
good.
Neil Patrick Harris is no comedian. That's the problem. He's not a stand-up improv comedian like Ellen. So that's so why can't we have a different kind of Oscar show? Why do you measure the success of this show about whether or not Neil Patrick Harris can do stand-up? Or are you doing that, Rob?
No, I'm not. All I'm saying is we had to give so much time to him, because that's just how this show is always structured. And I agree with you, Tom. Let's move away from that traditional structure and let's just have more performances and more bits about cinema. Maybe we can have a rotating cast of people who come out and talk about film and do some funny things and do some really magical, emotional things. We want to see emotion. We want to see truth. We don't want to see bullshit. And that's what we were getting. We were being fed.
We got the most emotion and the most truth tonight out of the best acceptance speech of all, which was, of course, the writer of Invitation Game, who said, "When I was 16, I tried to kill myself." But he tells everybody to stay weird, and when it's your turn to stand here, send the same message. Now, not only was that a wonderful little, everybody feels like the class nerd. Everybody, when they look back, feels like they were the social reject. That social reject, that is the universal human condition. But he struck a chord in his delivery of that so profoundly in a way of tying it into Alan Turing. And I think the greatest acceptance speeches at all award shows have something in common. They have that moment, for example, Whoopi Goldberg had when she won for Ghost, when she said, "I was just a girl living in the projects, and I didn't know how I could ever get here." Getting there to that stage, to that moment, is the dream of everybody who has the Oscar dream and follows this thing and cares about it. And when you call attention to that journey and the magic of the moment of standing there, I think you do a great job. And he did a great. He got a standing ovation. Do you guys agree that was the best acceptance speech of the night, or certainly one of them? Eddie Redmayne's was amazing too.
Eddie was fun to me because, he had to know he had a really good shot, whether he thought he was going to win or not. So he gets up there and he thinks he's collected, and then the moment hits him, like when he looks at the Oscar in his hand, and you can tell whatever he had in his hand was gone.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Whereas I think J.K. Simmons, it was almost like he overthought his. It was almost like he was...
Yeah, but you know what's so great about his, Chris? He didn't thank anybody from the movie. He made it personal. This is about him. He thanked his mom, his dad, his family, and he told us to do the same thing. I thought that was great.
I loved it. Wow.
The sentiment was there in terms of what he had thought about in advance, but I just didn't think I thought he delivered it so much. Not that, but his other speeches to me.
Chris, you're just wrong. Rob and I have overruled it.
That's it. That's the end of it.
What do you think?
I don't want to beat up on Chris, but
we love you, Chris.
It's great. The speeches were, in general, so good. From the very beginning, from J.K. Simmons, and then you have that really wonderful moment of, Pavel Pawlikowski from Ida was getting played off, and he played off the music, just kept talking, and then...
Well, he deserved to be played off. He was right.
I thought
loved it.
Great. And I thought... Patricia Arquette had a great speech. Common and John Legend had a...
Patricia Arquette brought out that note, that shopping list again.
Unfortunately,
boring.
Her sentiment was great.
Yeah. The sentiment was there. The content was there. It was well organized. If she needs a slip of paper to get that reaction from Meryl Streep, I say more power to her. That was out. Standing. And then Common and John Legend had the most eloquent speech, and then Graham Moore for the Imitation Game. Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu had, like, he had 3 chances, and he gave really good speeches all 3 times. It was just, I'm thinking, next year maybe we can just do without a host and just be.
Yes, why not? I absolutely agree. The SAG Awards don't have a host. The Golden Globes never had a host up till recently.
Yeah.
We don't need a host.
They will never go.
I'll tell you why.
I'll tell you why they will never, ever, ever go for that again.
Why?
Advertising. They build the entire 2 or 3 or 4 month campaign.
You're right.
Around whoever they've got as a host.
Well, then just make them scarce. Like, let's have them at the beginning and then see you later until the end, because it just brings the show to a halt.
Right, the greatest hosts, I think, have sometimes just been ringmasters, like when Oprah has done the Oscars or Emmys, or when, I remember the year Angela Lansbury did the Emmys, and she was just there to say, and here we go here, and here, and just to be queen. And it was great, it worked.
Yeah.
What else? What else did you guys think about the show or the awards or something?
Well, I'm going to mention something.
I want to bring something up. Did you notice in the In Memoriam, no Joan Rivers?
Shocking. How rude.
No Harold either. No Harold Ramis.
No who?
Harold.
Shocking.
Who'd you say?
At first. Harold Ramis?
He was in last year.
Oh, was he? Gotcha.
Yeah.
That Joan Rivers.
Okay,
that was a snub.
I did notice Joan Rivers, because you had mentioned, Tom.
I looked back at, I keep that memorial thread going just so we can keep up with such a list, and I looked back during that commercial break right after it, and there were, other than Joan, there were 4 or 5 people I thought might have been in there, but they were borderline. I thought, other than her, a lot of people in there were character actors and such. I felt like they went out of their way to put a lot of people in.
To snub her.
Daniel,
really?
what were you saying there? What were you saying? We interrupted you.
Oh no, I was just saying that I was in that in memoriam package. I was looking for her specifically because you talked about it in the pre-show that we did. Of course they'll do Joan Rivers in the in memoriam package because obviously she's had such a big impact on the Oscars and on the award show and the awards experience.
No, she was an Academy member, wasn't she, Tom? I remember all these years we should be talking about screeners that she'd be watching.
Well, I got her those screeners. I sometimes had to go over her house and play them for her. No, she was not an Academy member. This is what we were talking about in the pre-show. What was interesting about whether or not they would include her. Now, the power regime that's in place now, the Board of Governors, the Academy actual organizational leadership has changed through the years. But back in 1995, when we first started doing those shows together, and it was me and Melissa at a camera position and Joan on the carpet, that went on for 12 years. We did the shows together. Then they moved over to the TV Guide channel, and then we did it for a few years there, and it just disbanded. Now, in those years, Joan was loving to make the Kathy Bates fat jokes, and I would say at rehearsal, Joan, you can't do that. She is vice chairman of the Motion Picture Academy. Of all the fat people in the world, why are you picking on the vice chairman of the Academy? Now, meanwhile, they were screaming it all the time, Joan and Melissa, that they only had one camera position, and it was, and by the way, at the Emmys and at the Golden Globes, there's all kinds of room for the press to scatter, but at the Oscars, you only have that small little stretch, and it's only one side of that carpet. It's not both sides, like at the Golden Globes in most cases. So it's a problem. So, but Joan, we probably could have gotten 2 locations. Some media outlets do get two locations, but there was the problem of Joan constantly bashing them, constantly mocking them, and then it was too late when she stopped doing that. They were with the whole red carpet fashion thing. Remember, started in the mid '90s there with Uma Thurman and her gown. It was offensive to the Academy that this was happening. That out in the carpet, what is this fashion talk and this gossip talk and the rest of it? It's about the Oscars. It's about us. It's about the greatness of film as a 2-syllable word. Now, of course, it's all accepted and the damage is done, and now the show is more about that than the other stuff. But Joan was. And by the way, those shows went on before Joan. We were doing them at E! Before Joan and Melissa. We were doing them from, I think, 1991 or 92 on. They came on long later.
Yeah, and Steve Kometko. And,
It was Steve Kometko, that's right, Michael Kastner and Dagny Holgreen. And they were the first people to ask the question, who are you wearing? Now, of course, Joan and Melissa get credit for that. But the point is that Joan was an Oscar fixture. She had made movies. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Girl Most Likely To. It's a brilliant movie. She made Rabbit Test. She wrote these, too. She directed some of them. And she wasn't a great film presence, but she was certainly a great Hollywood presence. There was reason to put her there, and they didn't.
Shocking.
Well,
maybe she'll get a special feature on the Emmys next September.
That's true. That she does. She's an Emmy winner. Of course, she won for the daytime. Anyway, it's just you can imagine the discussion back at the Academy when they were going through who belongs to be in the in memoriam section, and they were saying, well, if we have to leave so and so out, we better leave Joan Rivers out for it. She's not a film star, you know. And all she did was vulgarize the Oscar experience with all that fashion talk. Anyway. That's the gossip, you guys.
That's the gossip. You know, I don't think they did a very good job of the in memoriam segment either. Like, I just.
Oh, I thought that was one of the best.
Really, I think they've done way better before.
The music was lovely. What was the music?
What did you not like about it, Rob?
Well, I didn't like how you can still hear the clapping. They need to get rid of that audio so that you don't hear it because it's just so grotesque. I didn't like how they used it.
I love the way whatever kind of visual effects they used on that, I thought was really good. And it seems like they've now decided in the last couple of years, so many shows have done memoriams on the same people by the time they get to it that they're now doing that I don't even know what you call it. It's a really neat CGI visual effect thing that they do. And
the pastel thing. But then does Jennifer Hudson have to sing a whole song afterwards? I just seem to feel like we're playing people off.
They started that with Barbara Streisand a couple of years ago, and I don't know why they do it after now. It should be
during. Absolutely.
During would be better.
It just felt like here are the people we lost this year, and now Jennifer Hudson, and it felt like whenever they do it, and they have they show the singer start performing, and then they cut away to the in memoriam. I think that's usually a better way to do it. I mean, just the respect for the segment, and just in the interest of time, you don't need her doing that after the whole package has already been shown.
Well, I didn't like that either, but ultimately, once they decided to do that, and that's what we got, that was one of the best directed musical segments I've seen on TV in years. The way that camera was moving around her, and that it ended up at the end where you got her from the back, and you've got all those lights in front of her in the audience. I just thought it was really well done.
Such a softie, Chris.
Well, you're the one. I was so happy that you were going to be on tonight because I loved. You and I are nerds for this kind of stuff. I loved the graphics when they were doing the nominees.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up.
The cards that they would do, and they were very, very. You could tell intricately produced. Yeah. I really like those, and I like the set a lot.
Oh, the set was fantastic.
Set was gorgeous.
God, it was glittering. It was glamorous. It was sparkling. It was Hollywood stardust.
And it changed from section to section. It wasn't always the same look. Yeah. Even something simple to me on certain presenters. You had like the lobby boys opening the doors for them.
Yeah, I liked that. Nice they did that. It was a wonderful touch.
But those graphics were gorgeous, weren't they? They did a beautiful. They've done that for the last few years. The graphics are great. And I love the clips for the acting nominations. I really love to see performances. And I used some different clips than we've seen on some of the other shows, which was really cool. Unfortunately, though, we didn't get to see a lot of the artistry of those creative categories. Like, I would have liked to have seen more of the costumes and more of the editing, like some examples like they've done in the past. That's what I live for. That's what I want to see. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see it this time.
And that's the great thing about the Oscars. What they should do is that, okay, so-and-so wins what award and what other award, but it's a really great way to study film in a way. Like, because of the Oscars, we're able to think about things like production design in a very specific way, and editing and sound and costumes. But, as nice as those graphics were, I felt they were just sort of, they didn't really showcase the actual art in what those below the line artists do. And so I felt like okay, it's like we've been saying, if they would forego a host, we could have like not only here are the nominees for best costume design, but like, here's a little clip package about the designing, the productions of the costumes, the productions of the...
Don't blame the host situation on that. That show runs 4 hours anyway. They have all the time in the world to do that stuff. They should have gotten rid of a lot of the Neil Patrick Harris stuff. But
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, get rid of. You don't need all of those bits, from the host. We can spend more time on, on the crafts, on what we're actually honoring, and so that's one of the reasons I really loved seeing the clips of the nominees, performances. We rarely get those. Although poor Emma Stone, if you only judge from award shows, you'd think she's only in like 30 seconds of that movie delivering.
I know. And I really hated how they trot out the Best Picture nominees throughout the show. They've been doing that for about 6, 7, 8 years now or something. And
yeah, but at least they grouped them 2 and 2 to get rid of them.
That's true. Thank God, because now there's 8, 9, 10. It used to be 5. But I think it brings the show to a halt again, and it stops the flow. And we just watch a trailer. We've been there. Let's move on from that, because it's
in other years they've done a much better job of grouping, where they made some kind of sense to be together. This year we went from, I know the very first 2 were Grand Budapest and American Sniper. I mean, what kind of a combo is that?
I don't know. That's crazy.
That was odd. That was crazy.
And I wasn't thrilled with the presenter choices. I mean,
no.
I want a mixture of, hot current stars, but I want some of the old glamorous stars mixed in there with them. You really only had a couple this year, and poor Shirley MacLaine. I mean, it was just a throw-off line from the overhead announcer. Just, here's Academy Award winner Shirley MacLaine. No intro of any kind. And then you had Julie Andrews. And how does Sean Penn rate presenting Best Picture?
What the hell was that all about?
He's so cranky.
And to keep it some big secret, like, oh, wow, Sean Penn, really?
Put a smile on your face.
He's not even an Academy member. He wins 2 Oscars, and he's so arrogant he won't even belong to the Academy. Just get rid of him. He's not cool,
isn't he?
He's not cool. They think he is.
Yeah. And that John Travolta, Idina Menzel, or Adele Dazeem bit was really cool, because we brought back that whole hilarious thing from last year. But then John Travolta got all up in Idina Menzel's face, and it was just so awkward.
He's trying to
I had to look away.
Nobody falls for that,
No.
He's the biggest Fruit Loop in Hollywood, and everybody knows it.
Well, look, if you're trying to dispel rumors that you're the biggest Fruit Loop in Hollywood, fondling one of the biggest musical theater stars on earth probably isn't going to do it.
That is so funny.
Queen Elsa herself.
I thought it was clever how they put them together, though. That was
no, it was cool.
It was a combination of clever, and they had worked with him before, so they probably wanted to let him redeem himself a little bit.
Yeah, that was cool.
By the way, I'm looking at the accuracy rates. The experts, the editors, the top 24 users all had an average of 83%. We all tied each other. The users were down at 75%, but the combined score of Gold Derby was 83%, which is pretty much what you and I got, Rob. So we did well, fairly well as a site. In other words, if you're the average, I heard from everybody, and it scares me. Matter of fact, today when I was walking down the red carpet, getting there early for the ET show, they're all going, "Oh, well, I made my predictions. I stole yours, or I stole those from." Like, oh God, no. Pete Hammond and I were sitting together at the Indie Spirits yesterday, and mobs of people were coming up to both of us. "Oh, thank you, I stole your prediction." Pete's looking at me because I hope to God they didn't steal
Tom,
mine.
can I ask you? Do you think it's better?
Oh, we lost him. That's a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said, Rob. It got cut off. Can you guys hear Rob? I can't.
Sorry, Tom. Do you think that it's? Sorry, I don't know if I'm interrupting. Sorry, I was just out for a second. Tom, do you think it's better that it's so predictive, or would you prefer it to be?
Oh, for us, I prefer it to be totally predictive to show how brilliant we are, right?
Yeah, I guess so for us. But wouldn't you love it where it was just so ridiculously all over the place, and we didn't have all these precursors, and no one knew anything, and it would be so surprising? I mean, it's like a balance. Which would you rather? I suppose predictive is better for us.
I don't like the Emmys last year where we got like collectively 50%.
That's right.
I know, that's true.
Oh God.
But the Emmys. I mean, not only do you have the panels, but we really don't have a precursor. you can't count on Critics' Choice from this summer or anything like that. So it's really totally. I mean, I think we do pretty well considering, 6 nominees per category, and when we're dealing with all these judging panels being different.
Absolutely, I agree. Anyway, I'm going to sign off here. Thank you, guys. You did a really great job. We want to bring in more of our editors now. They're standing in line. I'll let Chris decide that. Everybody, great job. What an Oscar season. What a thrilling Derby season. We had Boyhood out front, and then we had Birdman coming on strong, but we weren't sure it was really going to happen because Boyhood was still winning at BAFTA, and Boyhood was looking strong here and there. And it came out with some big surprises tonight, like Big Hero 6. And I think they came out with a strong show, strong musical performances, great acceptance speeches. Neil Patrick Harris's material wasn't so great, but it wasn't really awful. It was just kind of shrug-worthy. So in general, it was a good finish. I'm looking forward to Daniel's review of the show. Don't be too cruel, Daniel. We're going to be looking over your shoulder.
I might be cruel to the show, to the writers maybe. I'll try and
be cruel to the shows. Daniel is now such a master of these brilliantly worded and reflected reviews of the show that we're all now just waiting breathlessly to see his take on this.
No pressure.
And by the way, I want to give a real sincere and enthusiastic shout out to our pal Chris here, who, behind the scenes, you guys don't know this at home, Chris does that whole prediction center. That is not just a labor of love. It is toiling in the plantation at, night and day under the sweating sun, brutal sun. He works about 99 hours a week. And it is really grueling, and it needs constant changing and this and that. But Chris, when it's all over with, when we get to the end like this, it's really worth it, don't you think? The satisfaction you get from this, it is a really tough job that you do.
It really is, and it's so much. It's so pleasing to watch people when they are predicting, and you see how they're jumping in. And we miss things, and we have to move things around. But it's so good that people and people are so. I mean, this has not been going on all that many years, so when they take it for granted, it almost is like, hey, we didn't have this too many years ago. We better enjoy easy drag and drop menus.
By the way, those of you watching at home, there are major developments behind the scenes at Gold Derby that will result in us completely redoing the site. You've heard me talking about it in the message boards. We're going to have mobile apps. We're going to have a mobile design. We're going to have a whole new way of predicting. We've been working on it for months. We're very excited about it, and it's going to be a lot more easy. The whole process will be a lot more participatory. What we've done and accomplished since we relaunched in November of 2010 is, I think, a great beta site. Now, we've learned a lot here. We're going to upgrade the technology and the design and the interactive elements of the site to a whole new generation. Give us about maybe 6 months to do it, but the new incarnation of Gold Derby that's in the works right now is really, really exciting. So anyway, thank you all. Chris, I'm going to get off. You bring on whoever you want. Thank you, Rob. Congratulations, Daniel. 96% I'm going to kill you.
My God, I know.
We will never hear the end of it. The only redeeming factor is he missed one. If he'd been 100%, Daniel would have been dropping the mic and walking away.
Yeah, I'm just saying, fuck you all. Yeah.
Okay. I will be reasonably kind because I know next year this is going to come back around to haunt me. This is defeating, but I would like to thank the Academy for making me look good.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There you go. Well stated. All right, good night, you guys. Thanks so much.
All right, I'm going to ask Daniel and Rob. Actually, Daniel's got a story to write. Rob, hang out with me for just another couple of minutes, because I don't know who's available and coming in. I don't want to be here all alone. So we'll say goodbye to Daniel. Rob's going to stay. I'm going to invite in Matt, Marcus, Ralph, and Charlie. And if at least 2 of those join me, Rob, I'll let you go.
Then I'll go. Okay. Well.
And I want to say your wife's birthday was here it was Sunday for us.
Yes, it's today. Yeah, it's today here in Australia, and I'm home, so it's like a really great thing to have both things.
Monday is her birthday?
It's Monday in Australia, yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
so it is now.
Today. So happy birthday.
Well, you've got a great wife, and we appreciate her loaning you out occasionally.
yeah, I'm very lucky. And, I'm still reeling from Oscar season being over, right? This always happens to us. Chris, you are so much like me. We're the same. We've been doing this for many, many, many years, and it's like it takes a few hours for this to kind of sink in, and then we move on to Emmy season. It's that simple, isn't it?
I know. I keep thinking there's going to be a week or two during the year where I don't have an award show to work on, but it just
Yeah.
see, the people behind the scenes don't know, or the people that are watching the website. The very next thing, I've already had people contacting us for Emmy interviews.
That's right. Oh God.
So I mean, we might have a couple of weeks here in March before that starts, but there's more shows and performers now than ever. So I'm afraid it's going to be not afraid. I'm glad it's going to be a ton of interviews. So
Yeah.
well, Robert, we
everyone's
have the whole
here.
gang, so we'll let you go.
I'll go. Okay. See you, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, we got this. I see Ralph. I see Marcus, Matt. You need me to eject you, Rob? I like ejecting
you do.
people.
Please eject me.
Okay. I feel like James Bond.
Yeah.
Bye. And there's Charlie. Okay, I got the whole rest of everybody. Okay, we don't want to keep this really long, so I guess I'll just move through. Let's start with Ralph. How are your predictions?
Oh my God! I'm glad I made that last-minute switch to Birdman. I think I got 5 wrong, so I don't know, what is it, like 75% or something? I totally missed both the screenplays, which sucked because I was really hoping Whiplash would pull it off. And director, I was going Linklater, and then I missed one of the short films. But other than that, I guess okay, not too bad.
You know, we talk about I missed 6 overall, which, you know, before Gold Derby or before, you know, we really took off with the prediction center, I mean, we would have all been thrilled to get, say, 18 out of 24 at the Oscars. I mean, you know, the last couple of years have spoiled us so much because we all got, you know, 20, 21, 22 the last couple of years. So, Marcus, what were your predictions like?
I do have to just ask Charlie, are you okay? Are you still with us? What's going on?
Charlie's drinking.
I got 71%. The Dixon curse is alive and well. I did go off that Boyhood Linklater train with you, Chris. Boy, I regret that. I was emailing people today. Should I switch to Birdman? Should I switch to Birdman? I was this close to doing it. Even if I had done that, I would have stuck with Linklater because.
Okay, I'm looking at it now. Marcus, Matt, and I tied.
71%.
We each missed 6, and then Rob missed 5, and Daniel. I just don't know what we're going to do with Daniel, who only missed 1.
Yeah, I do want to say, like, I'm looking at the overall predictions for every single person. Daniel was number 1 out of how many people predicted?
We had one user, one regular person out of 3,500 that got the same score as Daniel. One missed.
His name was Jeremy, so give Jeremy a shout
Right.
out. And then Riley, our buddy Riley, was 3rd place. So we had Daniel, Jeremy, and Riley. So congratulations.
We'll never hear the end of it from Riley either.
But yeah,
The biggest thing with Daniel's was, I think when each of us missed one, it was like, oh, I really thought that could happen. But I don't really think any of us thought Birdman was winning screenplay.
No, that came out of nowhere.
And Daniel got that.
And then, you know, the animated short, I really, really thought it would be The Dam Keeper. I was convinced. When Feast was announced the winner, I'm like, yeah, I could see that too, but I would have put money on The Dam Keeper winning that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Matt,
Disney's record in that category has...
What was the one that messed you up the most?
Me?
Matt, yeah.
Yeah, the one that messed me up the most, oh boy, like, I think it was the screenplay races. I switched to Budapest and I switched to Whiplash, thinking that sort of that's where the Academy voters' heads were with writing. I thought there was passion behind those films, and boy, when those two went the other way, then I was like, my predictions have now taken
that
a real...
makes me kind of mad now that I'm thinking about it. You've got, obviously, voters were marking Birdman, a lot of voters were marking Birdman in all 3 of those slots, picture, director, screenplay, which means it didn't even enter their mind that, okay, in a very competitive year, where really, if you could dole these things out properly, Alejandro and Wes and Richard Linklater would all pick up an Oscar some way or another. But no, you got to be really, really clunky with it and give 3 to Alejandro and none to Wes or Richard.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I wish they would have spread the wealth a little bit more.
Well, I felt worse for Wes and, believe it or not, Damien and Giselle, who watched their people over and over and over and over again all night walk up on stage, and they got thanked a ton of times, but they don't get one themselves.
Yeah, that's got to be horrible.
Well, I mean, I feel more bad for Wes in that regard because you could see like the look in Damien Chazelle's eyes, especially when Whiplash won editing. You could see the look in his eyes of him basically saying, "Wow, I just made a movie that won 3 Oscars."
Yeah,
And
he had that look of I can't believe these people bought this.
And especially for his first feature, that was his first feature, wasn't it?
He made the short film to get funding for the feature film.
Yeah, and so for him to be invited to this party for the on his first film and have it be like nominated for Best Picture and win 3 Oscars, for him that is amazing.
You know, I saw there was one moment, I don't know, maybe the second or third win for Whiplash, and I was looking at him and how, like you say, he was just so funny the way he just was covering up his whole face like I can't believe this. And I thought, you know, the biggest winner out of this entire award season might be him, because he's going to get flooded with opportunities at his age.
Yeah, he's what, like I think 28 or
well, not just, I mean, people will certainly bring him ideas, but I'm just saying he could probably do anything he wants to with any studio, you know, going forward.
Yep.
Yeah, and we should point out that all 8 nominees for Best Picture won something, which is really cool. American Sniper won.
Well, has that happened since they established this 6 through 10 rule?
No, this is the first in the past since they did that, since they made that change.
That is amazing because we've all seen over the years the Oscar voters are not sentimental. I mean, if you just because you haven't won before, that doesn't mean anything for them. Or like the whole Birdman thing tonight, they don't mind giving you 3 if they'll overdo it if they need to. So for them to scatter it out like that, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and if you had told me that Birdman would win either actor or screenplay, I would have put all my money on actor. The screenplay one really surprised me there.
When that happened, and they'd already won cinematography, and was there something else?
No, those were the only ones that had won at that point.
Okay. Weren't you all privately thinking, oh, Keaton might have this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because then they presented directing, and Iñárritu won.
Right.
And then I was like, oh boy, I'm wondering if Keaton could pull this one out.
And I
honestly,
felt like
never wavered.
Anderson and even Giselle, watching Keaton on stage for the Best Picture win, I'm thinking, man, I kind of feel for him right now. I mean,
yeah.
He was the movie.
Never ever thought Keaton would win. I didn't think he had a shot to win, and I never wavered. Even when we kind of knew the Birdman love was going to happen. Everybody was predicting it was a kill. Hey, you listened at the wrong time. You didn't listen to me at the pre-Oscar thing. I told you I went to Citizen 4, not Virunga, but I still thought Virunga had a shot to upset. That's all I said. That's your fault.
I will stay angry at you for all I care. Me and this bottle. That's my only friend.
Well, you always talk about the Dixon curse. Did Marcus take us off any cliff that she shouldn't have this time?
Yes. Marcus went for Boyhood, and what happened? Boyhood lost. Right. Marcus's fault that you lost, Chris.
No, it was BAFTA's fault that I lost.
But I also switched editing too, so I switched to Whiplash. And
I blame it all on BAFTA, though. I mean, if BAFTA had just simply gone with Birdman and Alejandro, like I was totally convinced they would, him having won DGA the night before, I would have easily predicted those 2 things.
Yeah.
When Whiplash won editing, that was one of the few that I actually got up and kind of cheered for myself because it was one of my last-minute changes that actually paid off.
That one made me a little bit mad because it was either today or yesterday, I switched to Whiplash on screenplay, but I thought I was kind of going overboard with Whiplash, so I refused to switch to it on editing. And if I had just done the opposite, I would have been much better off.
Yeah,
I know I said that I had switched to Whiplash in the screenplay category, but I had it there for about 2 seconds, and right away I just went, no, just stick with the Imitation Game, and I'm glad I did.
Well, my main reasoning was, just looking at it the last couple of days, was we could all feel that the Whiplash love was getting a little bit bigger. Like, okay, this sound mixing thing's very possible, and and ultimately the editing thing was possible. And I kept thinking back to the Oscar nomination. Well, it was, I guess, a couple of weeks before when the Writers Guild, not the Guild, the Writers Branch said, hey, we're the only ones doing this, but Whiplash is going to be adapted for us. And I looked at the list, and I'm like, he wasn't ever going to win on the original side, but he might just win this thing on adapted, and because it was kind of a weak group. And but it led to a great acceptance speech tonight. Graham Moore was excellent.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of speeches, the Julianne Moore speech was really good, but did you notice she was crying before she even went up there? Like, during the clip, she was crying. I think she obviously knew she was going to win, but she still gave a really good speech. So did Eddie. I think Eddie's speech was probably my favorite of the night.
Pavel Pavlislavsky. He was awesome. To represent Poland like that, to say, it is time for Polish cinema to be recognized. I know that's going to sound really snobby, because it really is very snobby to say that, but just him refusing to get off and to be as emotional as he was, I loved that.
In my best speech write-up, I didn't have either of those as a contender for best speech. Sorry,
What
guys.
was yours?
I really loved. I have Patricia Arquette on there because I thought her speech, especially the end of her speech, was awesome. I mean, when you can make Meryl Streep get up and clap for you, you pretty much want.
What I didn't like about it though? It was disingenuous. She waited till the last award show because she didn't want to offend anybody on the other award shows.
I just hated that she had that paper in her hand. Again.
Before she pulled the paper out, the camera had a side angle of her going to the podium, and she pulled her glasses out, and I thought, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I didn't even see the paper yet. I saw the glasses, and I thought, there's only one reason she's pulling glasses out.
And by the way, I rewatched her Emmy acceptance speech for Medium. She also read that one off of a piece of paper, too.
I get it when, an art director or a cinematographer might want a speech, but an actor, you kind of learn lines. You would think you would be able to do that.
I don't fault them because I remember when Forrest Whitaker won for Last King of Scotland, when he won the Globe, it was this long, stammering speech of him just going, and it was kind of painful to watch. And so I'm glad that when he won the Oscar, even though he had been winning everything up to that, it's still, because of what the Oscars are, it's such you got to imagine it must be in a very intimidating environment. So I like that he took a breath and he pulled out something and he read something, and it ended up being a wonderful little speech that he gave. I like it so that, at least they're not stammering, and it's not at least they can read something prepared if they know they won't be able to keep it together.
I never want to see
do you think,
paper, ever.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between trying to remember a whole list of names and having a sort of political.
That's the thing is, when they go to the Oscar nominee luncheon, they get read the riot act about pulling out a piece of paper and reading names. That's the criminal act to an Oscar producer who's got that button ready to go to the red light to the orchestra to start playing, is if you're reciting a bunch of names, they're going to take you out of there.
But yeah, but I think if you've got a political message you want to give, it's a lot more effective not reading it off a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot more authenticity to the common John Legend speech about race when they won, because it did seem like it's something they thought about rather than just reading talking points.
I don't know. I think this year in particular, everybody that won could have read off a piece of paper, and it still would have been better than the Oscars. So the producers have nothing to talk about. That show was horrendous. It was awful.
I didn't like the first half, but once from the memoriam segment on, I thought it was very well.
I was some of my friends were saying, next year could we have Neil Patrick Harris from the second half of the show host instead of the first half, because I thought he got better during the second half of the show.
No, I felt so bad for Octavia Spencer. My God, that poor woman, she was just sitting there like, what the hell is this guy bugging me for? It was horrible.
You know what I was hoping for? We talked. I don't know if all of you were watching our first section with Tom and Rob, but I said, when you got a bit on any show that's got to run, that for whatever reason you've set it up to be an ongoing for the whole night, you pretty much got to go with it because it has to have the payoff. I thought, and one of them said, you ought to have a contingency plan in case it's not working, and I thought, Octavia should have been told, it's at your discretion, but if you think this isn't working, one time when Neil comes to you, just say, you know what, I took the box and I hit it. We're done with that. This is over.
Right. And being a live show,
the crowd would have cheered.
Yeah.
But I thought his opening number was great. Like I thought that was a really I know that Rob was a bit critical of it as being something we've seen before or whatever. But I thought it wasn't it wasn't like this massive Big Tony's number, but it was a nice nod to cinema. It was very well executed. I think very good cameos of Anna Kendrick and Jack Black. Got me in a good mood for the show. I think he led things really well, and I think maybe where they fell down was later in the show, was for them picking an actor that's stronger at singing and dancing and not a comedian per se. They gave him a lot of jokes later in the show, zingers, and they didn't have really any funny presenters. They didn't have the Will Ferrell, Ben Stiller presenter come out and do their little bit. They should have relied on presenters more to deliver the comedy, and
that's what I was thinking too when we were talking earlier. I don't know why you wouldn't have 5, 6, 7, 10 people that are known for some sort of comedic acting or comedy or something to spread out over the course of the evening. And I mean, you had very good people like Steve Carell sitting in the audience with nothing to do.
Yeah, why wasn't Steve Carell presenting an award? I just think they should have scaled back Neil for the rest of the show with the comedy bits. He can still announce people and things, but scale the comedy bits back with him and rely on some presenters to do that stand-up comedy. I thought the brilliance of his monologue was he did a song and dance number that was great, I thought, and then he just introduced the show. He didn't try to do 10 minutes of stand-up because that's not his strength. And then they gave him a whole bunch of stand-up bits for the rest, and didn't get Steve Carell up there, didn't get Will Ferrell in, didn't get Black Jack. Why couldn't Jack Black have presented a bit later in the night?
Mm-hmm.
Totally disagree. I thought it was horrible. I thought the opening was god-awful. It went from...
Why was it? What was so awful about it?
He said one joke, and then it went into an Into the Woods Tony Awards soundtrack, and then from there, and it was about movies, broad films, not about the actual nominees, and then it went to J.K. Simmons to remind us, oh, this is actually the Oscars. Then it went to Maroon 5 to let us know that we're back on music again, and then it went to commercial. It was
an Oscar-nominated song. What are you bitching about that?
It was horrible. 2 songs before the first commercial break is bad producing.
Okay, but I think
then you produce it. You produce it.
But
I will.
Getting Neil Patrick Harris, this is what Neil Patrick Harris does well, that opening number.
Well,
if you don't want
these are musical producers. This is what they do. Yeah. They think everything. If they could do every presentation in a song, they would do it.
If Ralph produced it, we would have Uzo and Tatiana and the Ducks. It would be a travesty.
Your girl Gina was there. I don't know who she came with, but she was there.
She was one of the guys from American Sniper.
Oh, she's dating one of them?
No. She was just they were wearing some green eco green outfits made by recycled material and that, so they were ambassadors for that. So that's why she was there.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And by the way, there's only 2 films that won. It's Still Alice and Interstellar that were not Best Picture nominees. So I guess that's a good hint when you're making your predictions next year. Always go for the Best Picture nominee.
Oh yeah, that's been a pretty good rule for years and years. If you've got a category that's got a tough that's you're down to like choosing this one or that one. Usually you're better off going with the Best Picture nominee.
That helped
Unless
me
there's
with
like
a-
makeup.
screenplay, on adapted and original, all three of the ones we were kind of narrowing down to were all Best Picture nominees.
Yeah, and Best Makeup could have gone either of the three ways, but I decided on Grand Budapest because it was the only Best Picture nominee there.
Right. That's usually the way to go. Even when you've got the year that Iron Lady won makeup, the reason that's always a good call is you've got to imagine a person with tons of screeners, and if you can't make up your mind, go with one that you know for sure they're watching. So like on the Iron Lady, you knew for sure they were watching that to at least see Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
And I mean, in that one, that whole makeup was front and center there. I mean, that was on the screen the whole time.
Right.
Yeah. I just wanted to say I did some of the research yesterday. So the one rule that is now out the door, since we knew some of these rules were going to be broken, so now Birdman's the first film in 34 years to win Best Picture without having a corresponding editing nomination. It is the 10th film to do that. Before Ordinary People was Annie Hall, Godfather 2, Man for All Seasons, Tom Jones, Marty, Hamlet, The Life of Emile Zola, and It Happened One Night. Those are the other films that have pulled that off.
I don't look at it the way you do. I look at it and go, okay, that means this rule, this trend, this rule, whatever, it's going to be a bunch of years before that happens again.
Yeah, another 29 years.
We'll see.
I wouldn't go that far, but most of those trends, they're going to end at some point. It's just, is it going to be a long gap? And that was one reason why I was so convinced, if I was right about Boyhood, that it would be Linklater, because we'd had 2 years with splits. So it did seem like to me they were going to get that back on track this year without it being a split between director and picture. And I was right. I was just wrong about the movie.
Yeah.
What about, let me ask a couple of other questions, and we probably need to wrap up. What about, just the production itself? Rob and I were talking earlier, we get so nerdy about, all the graphics and the way that they put the packages together, and even, the production design with the stage, I thought was excellent, and so forth. Did you like the look of the show?
Yeah, I thought it was really strong, the set in particular, as you guys said. I think the title, even the font they used for the names of the actors in front of the clips, I thought was just really cool. I think that was a really, really good, well done. I think the best Oscars I think seen from that elements was maybe the Hugh Jackman year, where not necessarily that he was the best host or anything, but that they structured it by going with the categories, all the sound categories together. They sort of told the story of filmmaking. I think that was maybe a little stronger, but I think this year was pretty good on that too. You can nitpick here and there, the costume design cards, they should have had a bit more of a look at the costumes and things, but I thought it was pretty strong.
I did too. I really like the look of the show. I will give a call out too, because I'm old enough to remember a lot of these scores. Almost every song that the orchestra played tonight was a film song, and in many, many, many cases, they were songs that either matched up with that person, a song from one of their movies that was coming out to present, or made sense in some kind of a way or another. When Shirley MacLaine came out, that was the theme from Terms of Endearment. I know that one. And when John Travolta came out, that was one of the songs from Grease. And so I really thought, even when Chris Pratt came out, it was one of the songs from the 70s from Guardians of the Galaxy. So I don't like it when they pair people up for no reason. I mean, you had Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana there presenting. Why not just pair them up?
Right.
Especially if you're going to play the song from the movie to come, for him to walk out to.
It's not like either of those two presenters had bits that work specifically for them. It just is perplexing.
Yeah, do you know, Chris, because you know a lot of this stuff, do you know why for the past, this is now the third year that they have not had the orchestra in the Dolby Theater?
I don't like that personally. I like it when it's there. I think the year again. This is one of the best years they've ever had, but it might have been the Hugh Jackman year where they almost had like a big band at the like a corner of the back in the corner of the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Was it? Am I right about that?
I think so.
Yeah, it was because they made the whole. Remember, even the whole audience was like in a semicircle up next to the stage, and it made the whole evening like you were at a club or something. And I think Michael Giacchino was the music director that year, but I don't know why they do it other than whoever they've been using as their production designer may really want to use more of the stage than having an orchestra would allow.
Because yeah, it just seems weird because the Dolby, because back when it was first designed, it was the Kodak Theater. I know they designed that theater specifically with the Oscars in mind, that this was going to be the new place where the Oscars were going to be held. So it seems weird that they either wouldn't have room for it or they wouldn't be able to fit in the pit. It just seems really confusing to me.
I know that they have availability of doing a pit because Billy Crystal would always. In the couple of times he's hosted since it's been there in that theater, he always plays to the orchestra down below sometimes with some of his jokes. The nice thing about that theater, and Marcus and Ralph are right there, so they probably know this better than I do, but the other nice thing about it is it's built so that they can really turn it into anything. So like when the AFI does their dinner there, they cover that whole bottom section where the seats are with a floor, and it's done like a Golden Globe kind of a setup, with tables and chairs and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So they can really do anything they want to do.
And speaking of presenter pairings, Jennifer Aniston and David Oyelowo, was that just a pairing because we snubbed you this year, so we're going to
He even said that when they walked out.
What did he say?
Here are two presenters that really belong here tonight.
And then my favorite was Idina Menzel and John Travolta. That was so funny. And I wondered, though, watching it, does everyone get this joke, or do just people with really, really good memories or Oscar nerds like us get this joke? Because I'm sure it went over the heads of a ton of people.
No. This is me just guessing. They worked with Travolta before, and I have this feeling that they felt bad for him, all of those months after, and they thought they wanted him to have a do-over. And we didn't even know she was going to be a presenter, but even when he was announced a couple of weeks ago, I thought, they're letting him come back and, he's going to make fun of himself so that he comes off looking better. And to pair him up with her, though, was even better than I dreamed because it really was for them, the two of them and the producers, but I think people like us noticed that as well.
And I think that I can't imagine that going over the heads of too many people because that was one of the moments that really went viral. Like even if you're someone who doesn't watch the Oscars, you have a friend who sent that to you, said, "Oh, look what happened look at what happened. This is so hilarious."
Well, Will Ferrell made a joke about it on the Tonight Show on Super Bowl week. So I think it's had real staying power, that slip up. But do we think that him being so handsy with Idina Menzel is gonna is he caused more trouble for himself in trying to fix things up for himself?
Yeah.
Only time will tell.
He was like, why is he?
I was so busy typing and looking at stuff because I was composing the article for the message with stuff for the message board. So I was so busy looking at stuff. And my friends had my roommates had some of their friends over, and so I was looking, and so I was just hearing, and I'm like, I don't know what this is all about. I'm just still typing, and then apparently this is all blowing up. I'm gonna have to rewatch that bit.
Yeah. Well, what did you think about? Tom was just over the moon about the Sound of Music tribute. Did you all like that?
Yeah. I did.
I
was watching it. Go ahead.
I liked it for what, I thought it was amazing. I thought Lady Gaga was incredible, it was an incredible 5 minutes. I just seems misplaced to me. I don't know why I was spending so much time on the Sound of Music. It seemed, especially right after an acceptance speech talking about how Martin Luther King, is so pertinent in, today, to then sort of try to segue that into a Sound of Music. I know they didn't know that was going to win, but even in the intro, it was sort of talking. The Selma protests were 50 years ago, and now so Sound of Music came out too. It just, to me, seemed like just an excuse for a great number rather than something that organically fit in the show. So again, like, it's great, and it was better than most of the stuff, like most of the other musical items and things. But that was just
it was
how
the
I
50th
felt.
anniversary, and they had done The Sound of Music live, with Carrie Underwood a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So they had a reason for it. But the whole time I'm watching, I'm thinking, this is good. This is good. But if they don't bring out Julie Andrews when this is over, I'm going to kill this on the post because they're losing the moment. It was like when they did the James Bond thing a couple of years ago. It had not a single James Bond person come out.
Yep. Yeah. No, it was really good. But then I feel like I'm someone in The Big Lebowski. When Julie Andrews came out, it tied the whole thing together.
Absolutely.
Right.
And for all you Big Lebowski nerds, you're welcome.
I somehow missed the memo that Julie Andrews would be there. So when she came out, I was.
Well, they kept her a surprise. They kept Adina a surprise. And the other one that's so weird, Sean Penn is some kind of big surprise presenter of Best Picture. I mean, where does that? First of all, the surprise was his name back. Like, oh wow, here's Sean Penn. But like Tom mentioned, he's not. He won't even join the Academy. I mean, what is the point of him presenting Best Picture?
You got me on that one. I thought it was going to be interesting because when they said Sean Penn, I said, oh, he's going to punch whoever is the producer of the winning Best Picture or Best Picture film, and that's how we'll find out, which will be painful for them, but amusing for us.
He was in 21 Grams, which is an Alejandro film.
Well, that's
so
when he opened the envelope, he said, "Who gave this son of a bitch a green card?" I knew it was Birdman because I knew he probably had that rapport with Iñárritu.
Well, and what other person that was nominated needs a green card?
Probably Morton Tildum, if he was he a producer on The Imitation Game? I don't know.
Who's that? Oh yeah, the director guy. That's
He's Norwegian.
Whatever. Yeah, no, I
don't know how Sean Penn has gotten a status of being a Best Picture presenter. If you go to Wikipedia and look at all the Best Picture presenters, other than him and Will Smith last year, they all kind of have sort of a historical credibility in common.
He's got 2 Oscars, and I mean, yeah, he's a dick, but it's I mean, he's still a 2-time Academy Award winner. He's Sean Penn. He does good work. I mean, it's not that. I think it's weird when you have like Shirley MacLaine and Julie Andrews there that you would have Sean Penn be the Best Picture presenter. But I don't think it's out of. I mean, it's not like they had Kevin Hart go out there and present Best Picture.
Yeah, or
Thank
Josh
God.
Hutcherson. Oh God.
Or Will Smith last year.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with Sean Penn also, I mean, at least Sean Penn is trying to get up to that level. Well, maybe not personality-wise, but maybe artistic-wise, of like a Jack Nicholson. Now, I'm not saying he is like that, but at least Jack Nicholson, he's a member of the Academy, and he's there almost every year. And he plays along with the Oscars. The Oscars usually ask him to do something. He's there. The Sean Penn thing just really confused me.
And by the way, I thought Lady Gaga was amazing, but I thought Glory was the best performance maybe I've ever seen on the Oscars. It was just so good. And then you have something like Everything is Awesome, which I wanted to turn my TV off. What was that?
I loved that. I loved
Lonely
that.
Island, man.
Maybe I'm too old. I love The Lonely Island.
I was like the only one not sending snarky comments because I was trying to do all the check marks and do all the behind-the-scenes stuff. But as that ended, I was here putting the check marks in for whatever just won, and I thought to myself, and I'm glad I didn't type it, but now here I am saying it, so I don't guess it doesn't matter either way. I just thought, I hope to goodness that did not give Clint Eastwood a stroke there in the audience, because I was fearing for the older people sitting there that might have really done it for them.
I loved it. I thought it was true to the spirit of the Lego Movie. And if they're not gonna win animated feature, you might as well go all out. So you know what? Good for them.
Well, and that was really one of Neil's better lines all night, especially insider kind of a line to people like us. Right before that category came up, he says, if you're at a party now with the Lego Movie producers, please distract them for a couple of moments.
I think it would have been really fun if one of the Big Hero 6 producers had come up with one of those Lego Oscars that they were handing out.
I want one of those. How do we get those? That would be awesome. And
Emma Stone
had one of those when it was, her category.
Yeah, she was gripping that like crazy because she was like, "You're going to give the real one to Patricia Arquette, but this one's mine."
Mhm.
Where were some of those nominees as presenters too? Bradley Cooper should have been presenting, and I mean, I'm not even talking just like the ones that hardly anybody knows, but you had some very, very blockbuster, wildly popular kind of people there in the audience that never got on stage.
Yeah, that was very bizarre. No one from Boyhood, no one from Birdman was presenting. At least I don't think Naomi Watts presented, but she was nominated. It was very bizarre. And I did like how and someone in the forums posted this that Chiwetel Ejiofor and Jessica Chastain presented the award to Emmanuel Lubezki, who was the cinematographer for Children of Men, which Ejiofor was in, and The Tree of Life, which Jessica Chastain was in, which is why she what was it she called him? Chivo? Chivo, yep, that's why she called him that.
That didn't bother me because you're 2 or 3 steps removed from it. I hate it when I see one of the awards. Was it Indie Spirit where Ethan Hawke presented supporting actress?
Yeah.
Come on, that's just flat out wrong.
I think Chris Pine was the best costumes, and Into the Woods was nominated. I thought that was a little strange.
Yeah, and Benedict Cumberbatch, the category he presented, The Imitation Game, was nominated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never.
I just say, if Selma was a front runner for Best Picture, Oprah probably would have presented Best Picture.
By the way, what was with Terrence Howard?
Okay, I've got a theory there.
He thought it would be Selma, right? But it was Imitation Game instead. That's my theory.
No, my theory was that somebody was messing up on the teleprompter, and he was covering for them.
Mm.
Okay, that makes sense because we've seen that happen before.
You've seen it happen before, but they actually call it out, like roll that back or speed it up, or they'll call it out. I think he was being a good guy by trying to cover it up.
Yeah,
I thought for sure the next film he would mention would be Selma because maybe it was affecting him, and then it was like Imitation Game or something. I'm like, really?
Yeah. Unfortunately, all the films in that block that he was introducing were films that had a pertinent enough issue at the center of them that you could act a bit emotional about them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe he realized that it's Emmy season now, so he was just in the Lucius Lyons type of realm there because it was totally not Terrence Howard. It was totally Lucius Lyons from Empire. And that's what he went with. So I think he was just practicing to let everybody know that, he's that good. At least that's what I got out of it.
I'll give you a little behind-the-scenes tidbit on him. I met him back in the Hustle and Flow years, maybe 2 or 3 times on the red carpet. He signed his autograph completely backwards, but very, very legible. I mean, a lot of people, you're just it's just a quick scribble. You're lucky to be able, when you get done, to make out, the first letter of each name or something, But he signs it very, very, almost like John Hancock legible, but completely backwards.
So he starts with the D in Howard and...
Yes, completely backwards. Wow. And still capitalizes the T and the H.
That's weird.
That takes skill, man. Wow.
He had to learn that early on or something. I'll have to, one time when we're off doing one of our little editor chats, I'll show it to you.
Oh, man.
It's impressive. I mean, I'm saying if he just did it and it was just a scribble, you'd go, well, that's weird. But it's just like totally legible. Like you could hold it up to a mirror and it would be perfect.
Wow. But all in all, I thought it was all right. I'm Birdman, Birdman and Boyhood were my favorite movies of the year, so I was happy to see Birdman take Best Picture, but still, kind of miffed that there's nothing for Linklater there.
Oh yeah, he did.
I felt for him and Wes and Damien in that they watched. Well, 2 of them watched a whole bunch of their people go up, and then Richard really. I mean, for all that Boyhood was during award season, they got what, 1?
They got 1.
Yeah.
They got the same amount as Alice.
he's got Globes and some Globes and some BAFTAs, so at least he's got that. But still, yeah, the Oscars got to be tough. At least give him director or something. But I mean, everything was swinging Birdman, so I guess that's the way games
Don't you
play
feel
now.
like, especially with him and Wes, I would say, because they've been around a while, they're almost going to be in that Julianne Moore situation next time they're out?
I guarantee you. I mean, that's going to be part of that. They're going to whatever studio it makes their distributes their next movie. They're going to if the critical reviews are there, they are going to like put that front and center and say, make up for this.
Yeah, and David O.
And it's
Russell
really-
too from last year.
Well,
And
yeah,
it's
2
really-
years.
Wes Anderson's a particularly interesting person moving forward because all his films have a very similar style and look to them. Like, they're all distinct from one another, but I'm just, and he'd never been, like, his films had never been nominated 9 times before. He's only gotten screenplay nominations. It's going to be interesting to see moving forward with Wes Anderson movies, assuming they do keep a similar level of quality, whether that will just be like sort of Star Wars in those categories, where he'll always be picking up costumes and production design nominations.
I think with Linklater, he makes very accessible movies, and I think Wes, for somebody that makes really, really quirky movies, I mean, Lightning has to be striking perfectly for him. I mean, it's got to be, overwhelmingly popular with the critics. I mean, this was his biggest movie ever at the box office. I mean, will he be able to have all of the elements come together again like that?
Yeah.
I don't know if he.
So you think it's more like you think it's more like a lightning strike, Chris, maybe, than a sort of like he's now broken through.
Because I've liked almost every movie he's done. There's been a couple recently that Darjeeling Limited I thought was awful. But things like Moonrise Kingdom and Royal Tenenbaums, and I love those movies.
Rushmore, love that movie.
But they got they get really no awards attention at all. And even somebody like in Royal, somebody like Gene Hackman, who won the Globe for it, couldn't even get in at the Oscars.
Losing that spot to Sean Penn, of all people. For a nomination that would be later parodied in Tropic Thunder. But I can see still, Wes Anderson, eventually picking up a screenplay when, even if it doesn't have the huge broad support, if that's one category that he should own at some point.
He needs it'll be the right year and the right film.
I mean, he's doing a movie about every year and a half.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
He could turn it into like the Woody Allen. I mean, kind of fulfill that role. He's young enough to just start automatically getting a screenplay nomination almost every time.
If you guys could pick one win as your favorite win, what would it be? Mine is definitely Eddie Redmayne for the actor.
Oh, mine is definitely score. I love that win.
Editing for Whiplash. I mean, I came out of that movie just being, in addition to being overwhelmed by just how much I loved the movie and being thrilled by not only J.K. Simmons' performance, but also by how much, Miles Teller really bringing it at the same level. I was just like, oh my God. I actually stayed. I was like, who was the editor for that? Because that just blew my mind. So seeing Tom. So when they said Tom Cross, I was like cheering up and down in my seat because, of course, I'm too fat to get up. I was like just cheering up and down for that.
For me, it was probably like there's two sort of ways I could go with this. The prediction side of things, Big Hero 6. I read a couple of articles about how it would win, so it was so exciting for me for that actually winning. Oh, thank God those articles weren't a waste of time. But then on the other side, it's probably Birdman for Best Picture. Like that and The Grand Budapest Hotel were my 2 favorite films of the year.
I agree. That was my 2 favorites.
Yeah. I was really happy to see Birdman when I preferred it to Boyhood, but from a prediction side, I was really annoyed because I'd also written an article on why Boyhood would win Best Picture. So that was sort of a bittersweet moment.
Hey, but, I wrote the why Steve Carell will win Best Actor. So
Well,
I heard
if,
mine a week ago. So
if Nightcrawler would have won anything at all, that would have been my favorite win. But my favorite win for sure is Eddie Redmayne's win, because I sent you guys an email on November 7th declaring this race over for Eddie Redmayne, and Charlie tried to give me crap about it, and he was wrong, of course, and so that's why it's my definitely my favorite win of the night. But I mean, I don't know, it's kind of an underwhelming group of pictures this year, at least in my book. Especially, I mean, I loved Whiplash and I loved Nightcrawler. I liked Birdman, but nothing that I was really like strongly passionate about this year as I usually am about other years. So whatever.
My three top movies of the year were Interstellar, Whiplash, and Boyhood, and all of them won Oscars. So I'm happy. I wish I had predicted a little bit better. I wish I hadn't gone off that Boyhood train, but overall, I'm happy with the list of winners this year.
I thought it was a great year too. I look at just the 8 that were in Best Picture, and I liked them all, and I loved 2 of them. Well, 3 of them really. And if you think about it, I mean, we're kind of so over the Simmons Arquette, more because they won everything. There wasn't a surprise. But a J.K. Simmons, a character actor who's never he's never been the lead in anything really, and mostly on TV, and mostly as Neil did a funny little bit there with his, mostly we know him as, when I would describe him to people, like, when you're making just people around here, when you're making your Oscar predictions in your office pool, make sure you do J.K. Simmons, and they would go, who is that? And I'd go through about 3 roles, and this would happen every time, and I'd go, do you know those insurance commercials, the bald guy? Oh, him? So that's what he's most known for right now, until Whiplash.
Yep.
Farmers. I couldn't think of the name. Farmers Insurance. But I just love the fact that somebody like him, who seems like he's really a stand-up guy and probably a very, very solid, one of those guys that everybody likes to work with, now has an Oscar.
Same here. That's a wonderful thing.
And a great film. Yeah, I agree.
Everyone in
Julianne
America.
Moore, for somebody to hit was this 5th?
Yes.
Is that right? When you get into that territory, there's no guarantees. I mean, Peter O'Toole, it wasn't too many years ago, he picked up his 8th and still couldn't win against, Forrest Whitaker? So, but for her to, at her age, early 50s, I mean, the lead roles are just not coming along that much.
Yeah, it's interesting. For the best actress, we used to talk about how it was the rule that the ingenue would win. Usually someone under the age of 40. But for the past 2 years, we have had middle-aged women not only win but be solid front runners throughout. And so I think that's a great thing in itself as well.
All 4 acting winners were new winners, which is awesome. And by the way, I would love if Amy Adams won an Oscar. So her next movie, she should be married to Alec Baldwin, because that seems to be a pattern that we're noticing.
Yeah, Amy Adams is another one, like we talked about Wes and maybe Richard Linklater. But whatever she gets in for next, unless there's just like a overwhelmingly strong front runner. Like I was not pulling her for her to get in for Big Eyes, which I didn't care for the movie either way. But I just didn't want her to get in this year because that would have been number 5?
6. I think 6.
And there was no way she was going to win. I mean, I would have really felt bad for her.
Yeah, she's got to win something. She's incredible.
Here's another little tidbit. I think Daniel's going to do a story because I sent him some names. But there haven't been all that many Oscar wins for acting over the years where the person's played a teacher or a professor, something like that. But all 4 did this year.
Oh my God, that's right.
And maybe people in the chat room right now, if you've got some names, Daniel's going to do a photo gallery and a story in the next day or 2. I can only come up with about 6 or 7 in the history of the Oscars. Now, a lot of those people, when I look at their name and their film from the 50s or 60s or something, I know they won the Oscar, but I may not know what that role was, what that person did in that movie.
Robert Donat.
But you had Anne Bancroft in Miracle Worker. You had
Robert Donat.
Goodbye, Mr. Chips. You had Maggie Smith and Miss Jean Brodie. Rex Harrison, My Fair Lady.
Book here.
But there's not a bunch, and all four this year. Now, really, I mean, Stephen Hawking really wasn't a professor in his movie. Not really. I mean, I guess toward the end, but that wasn't what the movie was about. But we know he became a professor. And then the other three were just straight up teachers.
Robin Williams.
Who's that?
Robin Williams, because remember in one scene he's teaching a class in Good Will Hunting.
He's teaching what?
He's teaching a class in Good Will Hunting.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's I think the first scene that we see him, he's teaching a class.
I was just thinking about him being a therapist.
And by the way, it's a great year for gingers. Eddie Redmayne and Julianne Moore killing it for the redheads out there. That's awesome.
Props to them.
Well, more power to them. My red hair is disappearing. And I think J.K. Simmons, wasn't he a redhead before he became bald?
I don't know. I can't picture him with hair.
Yes.
No one can.
Was he not bald at one point?
We need to do a search on him because I think on one of the pre-shows they were showing interviews with them, like all of them, like at early stages of their career, all the nominees, and I think he was either blonde or red hair. I don't guess that counts anymore, though. Well, everybody wrap up with a final comment or two, and we'll move along our way and move on to Emmy Awards.
Yay!
Oh, thank God.
I think that's their final thought.
Totally mine.
I'll go mine. Like, I thought, look, Grand Budapest Hotel, Whiplash, and Birdman winning like 11 awards between them, like 3 incredible films. It was a great night. I'm a bit disappointed for Wes not being able to take one out. That's probably my biggest disappointment. And I think there's some bumps along the road, but I thought Neil did a great job of host. I thought he was really good.
Well, I'll throw it to Ralph next because I know he totally disagrees with the last statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was really bad. I know he's a friend of but I thought this was probably the worst Oscar telecast since the James Franco debacle. If not, probably worse. I'd probably rather watch that again than this one. But I'm just happy that Whiplash won 3 out of 5 Oscars, and that the speeches were great this year. I mean, 90% of the speeches, I would say, were really, really good, which saved the show. And, I guess I'm looking forward to a more predictable Oscars next year so I don't miss 5 categories.
Is there anybody already on the radar that looks like they're going to win next year? That would be fun to try to call something like that in February.
Animated feature, that new Pixar movie. It's called Inside Out with Amy Poehler. I'm going to bank on that the whole year.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only one I heard on Sundance that resonated, I mean, we heard a lot of good comments about different movies, but that Lily Tomlin playing the kind of crazy grandmother, I think it's called Grandmother or Grandma or something like that. That sounds like that would be very Oscar baity, and she's kind of beloved within the entertainment world, and she's had an Oscar nomination back in the 70s. So that one to me sounds like something that could be on the right path.
And what about something like Jurassic World for visual effects? Do you guys remember, did the original Jurassic Park win any Oscars?
It had to. I think it won sound. I don't know about visual effects, but...
Oh, yes, they're mentioning people now by the way, on the... they say Henry Fonda was a professor in On Golden Pond. He was retired. Mm. And John Houseman, of course, in Paper Chase.
What about Rex Harrison? He was a teacher of sorts in My Fair Lady.
Yeah, he was called Professor Henry Higgins. I mentioned him.
Oh, okay.
At the Spirit Awards, the Weinstein head of marketing from the Weinstein Company told us that next year they're really pretty high on this new film they acquired, starring 2-time Oscar winner Cate Blanchett, where she plays, I guess, a professor or something, and ends up having a lesbian relationship with Rooney Mara. But apparently, both performances are supposed to be incredible, so they're really excited about that. She's not
winning again for a long time, I'm telling you.
She's not, but Rooney Mara can take supporting. She's already an Oscar nominee.
That's right.
True
Yeah, I could see that. if somebody in the chat room very quickly wants to name off a couple of people they've already, and you know, you can always, not knowing on IMDb without looking. I mean, if certain directors have movies in the pipeline for 2015, you know they're at least going to get attention, like a Martin Scorsese or a Steven Spielberg or I don't know what David O. Russell has next, but I mean, you know what I'm talking about. There's certain Woody Allen. If they've got something in the pipeline, they're at least going to get a look.
Clint Eastwood.
The Danish Girl is something that might be interesting. This is Tom Hooper's next movie with Eddie Redmayne. I believe it. I can't remember what it's about, but I know that that's going to be something to watch for.
And I just want the Academy. I know they're listening to this, right? I want them next year to combine the sound categories into one, create a new category for Best Voiceover, and then expand makeup and hairstyling to 5 nominees. If you guys do that, I'll be so happy.
Well, 2 of those should be easy. The makeup and hairstyling. It's the only category with 3 nominees. If I was in that particular branch of the Academy, I'd be screaming at every meeting. I mean, it's not like there aren't plenty of good jobs over the course of the year. The sound one, I think you're absolutely right, and somebody would say, well, you're going to exclude the mixers or you're going to exclude the editors. No, just have them all share.
Right.
But,
and you know,
but 2 different
voters,
films won them this year.
But the voters don't know the difference, and
They don't. I read that every year in those comments from like the mystery voters, where they admit I don't know the difference in these 2, and often. Almost every year, this year was an exception, almost every year, your 2 sound categories are won by the same film.
Yeah. Do we think if Whiplash was nominated in sound editing, it would have won?
I do.
maybe,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I would have just, like we do on our Gold Derby Awards, which aren't nearly an Oscar, but we just call it Best Sound, and for our nominees, we list off the editors and the mixers. Okay, guys. I think we've run out of things to talk about.
Oh, my.
On to the Emmys.
Yes.
Tony Awards
Sing in the
first.
book. What are the Tonys?
In June.
Bradley
No,
Cooper will
what are
finally
they?
win a big award.
Oh yeah, right. On to the Emmys.
And kudos to him for I mean, I don't know how he did it, but their closing night for Elephant Man for weeks had been scheduled for tonight. And he got them to move it up to last night. So I don't know what happened to all of those people that had tickets tonight, but you know.
Private party with Bradley.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to those people. I would have been really upset if I bought not only expensive tickets, but closing night tickets. And then found out that Saturday was going to be the closing night. But I'm really glad when people show up. And I think everybody, I don't think there were any absences tonight, were there?
No,
None of the major ones.
Maybe a technical person somewhere, but I don't think any of the others.
Not the people we saw the place cards, like, you know, the faces of when they go to announce the winner.
Right, right. Okay, guys, we'll talk again soon. Thanks, everybody, for watching our pre-show and our post-show. And make sure you get into the Emmy Prediction Center and start making your picks.